Mind, I don't see anybody in the chat yet. But hey, we are live. And I don't see anybody in my chat room. Uh-oh.
Hey, it's their fucking loss.
That's right. It's their loss. Wow, welcome live from the crossroads of America, the Rick's Life as I See It. A talk show about guns, politics, or anything else that crosses my mind. I also answer questions from the audience if you wish to put them in the chat there, or send me an email at rickslifeasiseeit@gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com. Also, if you can't make the show, the audio file will be on Podbean, iTunes, and Stitcher normally within 24 hours of the show ended. I have a Patreon page, as you can see, on the bottom of the lower thirds there. And so what else was I going to mention? That's about it, really. I have a panel here today, which is good. And so far, we got Tony. How you doing, Tony?
I'm good here. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, Squib. The man's at work.
Hey.
How you doing? And we got Patriot.
Good afternoon.
How you doing? And then we got David.
Hey, Rick. How is everybody today?
All right. Then Wheelchair Warriors just joined us. How you doing?
Doing good. Sorry, I was running behind.
That's all right. Anyway, I'll wait till a few people get into the chat room before I do the answer to last week's quiz. You know, and I got a humdinger for this week. You know, this one's really going to take some searching unless I give you a real easy clue along with it. Anyway, what was I going to start off with? Oh, yeah. What was I ranting on about before you said it was time to go live, Tony?
Hell, I don't know. I don't pay attention to what the hell you're saying.
You were ranting about the caravan people requesting asylum. You were ranting about some senator wants to nuke the American public.
I think right before it was the DOJ. You were just going there.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the latest is the DOJ is about ready to release the thing that the bumpstocks are now under the act as machine gun parts. So there you go. So I mean, that's what I said months ago when the DOJ was asking for people to put in their views and everything else. That was all just a front. They knew from the soon as Trump said I want them banned, boom, it was going to be done. And all of it was just fun trying to appease the Second Amendment crowd, you know? So, I'm kind of pissed off about it, really. You know, personally myself, I don't want a bump stock. You know, I've never actually seen one in real. You know, I've only ever seen them on the internet. And I've seen, YouTubes of people using them. It doesn't sound like anything that would interest me. But as I've always said, if you want one, it's your right to have one. You know? So I think it's a crock of shit. It's another stab at the Second Amendment. It really is. Then what's his name? Schumer said, This is the year. He's the Senate. This is the year. He said we're going to get gun control in. He says because we got some Republicans sitting on the fence. You know, I thought, you son of a bitch, and he's more likely right. You know, we do have some rhinos. You know, it's all a kind of a bunch of shit. Oh, another thing. I know I'm rambling here. I'm waiting for you guys to. You guys can stop me anytime and jump in and say your piece. You know. But also, we've got I was also reading, because, coming from living in Rhode Island for so long, I noticed that not one Republican held his seat in an office, political office of any importance in the Northeast. It's practically gone totally Democrat now. You know, it's a sad state of affairs, really. It really is. But then
I had always thought it was normally mostly Democrat anyway.
It was, but I mean, you had the odd Republican governor or town mayor or something like that, or congressman. The only one left of any importance is the Republican senator, who's who's on the fence anyway. That woman,
Collins.
Yeah. There ain't nobody else up there of any importance.
Is she in Maine?
Yeah, in Maine, yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised she would go against against gun rights. So,
I think her big on the fence thing is abortion.
Yeah. Well,
that's part of Canada anyway.
Yeah, but talking about that, didn't Trump do 2 more executive orders on pro-life shit the other day? So
I haven't heard.
Yeah, that's what I read. I mean, I see these headlines because every now and then I'll check I got the Fox News page, and I always check on it, see if. And all I do is read the headlines. You know what I'm saying? Or put it another way, I mean, I just read the headlines. I just stir the pot. I don't taste it. You know what I'm saying? So that's up to you guys.
Well, the news is getting so unfucking believable anymore. I don't even want to watch.
Oh yeah. Oh, here's one for you. Indiana. I moved it. Well, in this last election, the 2 blue, Indianapolis is all blue and Gary is all blue. But listen to this. A Republican state congressman, is that what you call them, for the state government, is putting in a bill for the safe storage law. For that, we have to keep our guns locked up away from kids, and if anybody steals them, we are held responsible for whatever happens with that gun. That's a Republican.
That's why I keep saying, don't get comfortable because we got a Republican Senate. You cannot trust the Republicans either. They're not on our side either.
No, they're not. They're not. I mean, I think it was Squib and I were talking the other day in the afternoon chat, and we were getting the worst end of it. But I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime. But eventually, I reckon the 2A, there will be no guns allowed in the United States. I'm thinking our grandchildren won't be able to enjoy the guns that we have.
Yeah, I think we should continue fighting the good fight and try to do the best we can. Keep informed, and try to educate the people that don't understand. But the way things have been going, and the way things just seem to escalate and increase in pace, you can see the writing on the wall. I'm not saying we should just throw our hands in the air and give up. I'm not saying that at all.
You got to go after the kids and make sure that they understand, because they learn in school that everything's bad and that we're bad. And I've been fighting that all year long, and it's crazy, but you got to take responsibility and step up and teach your kids right and teach their friends right, if it can kind of bleed over to that without stepping on other parents' toes. But you gotta push out more positive stuff than all the negative stuff they get all day long, and you got to do that, because it's up to you. If you don't do it, then that's your fault, and then I'm going to blame you.
Well, I agree. Like, when I remember being in middle school and elementary school, and the police officer would come in, for the to do a talk, or the firefighter would come in, or the the military guy would come in to do the motivational talk for the kids, and everybody was always so excited and interested and just awestruck that the police officer, the firefighter, the military guy was there. And now you go to school and they're all the enemy. The firefighters fake 9/11. Cops kill black people because they have nothing better to do, and the military invades countries because we're evil. It's being taught everywhere that our old school heroes are all now bad guys.
All right, see you in a little while, Tony. He has to go pick up the wife. Yeah, you're right there. I don't know. It's just...
I don't think they have anybody come in anymore. I mean, I remember the railroad guys coming in, telling you that, hey, stupid, stay off the tracks. That kind of stuff, just from the area I live in and stuff. And of course, you always want to play with the trains. But
talking about that, but on a bigger level, not in school, but college, Kent State. You remember that girl who was photographed walking through the grounds with the AR-10 on her back? She had graduated the day before. Students weren't allowed to carry, but if you weren't a student, you were. That's why she was showing her carrying an AR-10 across the campus. Well, anyway, she's a Second Amendment gun right activist, if that's the word you want to use. But the conservative or whatever school body group, some group on the campus, wants her to speak. And Kent State said, well, we want an $1,800 security fee for her to come on campus. Well, they took them to court, and the federal court said you cannot do that. That's against First Amendment. Which I thought, hey, at least we won one there, But there we go.
That's how they'll fix that. Here's another example of the government not being on our side, and the powers that be not being on our side. They'll allow her to have her speech now, and what'll happen is Antifa will show up in droves and cause a riot, and they'll have to shut it down because of safety concerns.
Yeah, but the only people that will cause safety concerns are the libtards protesting. What can we do? What can we do? That's the way this world's going today. Oh, another topic. I'm just throwing these out there. Anybody can stop me or bring up something else they want or continue talking about something. Yeah, go on.
I was just going to suggest, I mentioned, teaching your kids, that kind of carries over to nieces, nephews, grandkids, all that stuff. So, there's enough spread of, if you're one person and you're pro-gun and pro-Second Amendment, you can branch that out to, 20 people and all of us do it. That's a lot of people. So.
I had some family over recently, and they say they're pro-gun, but they're hardcore Democrat, and it's like, you're not pro-gun, okay? You're not. You can say whatever you want to say, and it's like, well, our family's always hunted. It's not about hunting for the 150th time. It's not about hunting, right? So, anyhow, my nieces were there, and they're young, and some of the things they say, it's like, oh, yeah. Well, you know what? You raise your kids your way, I'm going to raise my kids my way. They're good people. Even though we don't agree politically and on some other things, it's still, their family. And just like I have the right to believe what I believe, they have the right to believe what they believe. Anyhow, I was down there making up some can loads for the range before deer season. And just more or less, my house is small, so everybody was packed in the living room, and there wasn't even room so I just said, I'm just going to go down to my reload area and just get away from this. And my nieces came down and said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm reloading. She said, oh, you're making bullets? I said, no, I'm making cartridges. So then I showed them, this is a case, this is a bullet, this is a primer, this is powder. And then I showed them how to use the calipers and how to use the scale and some of the science behind it and stuff like that. And they said, can we make them? And I said, okay, sure. So I had them go through every station on the turret press and showed them, explained to them why they were doing what they were doing, how it was working. And I ended up having 4 of them make their own 44 Magnum shells, live shells. And I told them, don't throw them into a fire. Don't ever take them to school. I don't care how old you get or how long you have this. And take these to your parents and make sure that it's okay for you to have them before you leave this house. Don't just leave the house with them. So, but I explained to them, and they were looking in my safe. They were looking in my safe, and wow, look at all these guns you have. And I'm like, yeah, there's some guns there. It's no big deal. And they said, well, why do you need this many to go hunting? I said, I don't use them to go hunting. I use them for all kinds of stuff. Like what? I said, well, I carry a pistol when I walk the dog. You do? Why? And it's kind of like they were raised to think that guns are only for hunting. You only need one gun. Why would anybody, so I wasn't trying to turn it into a political thing. I wasn't trying to turn it into a fight. Nobody came downstairs and said, what the hell are you doing? Or anything like that. But I took the time to show them safely. I didn't let them handle any guns. I didn't, I showed them my Martini Henry, for Pete's sakes, which is a 130 some odd year old gun. Or maybe it's a little bit older than that, just to show them that, there's collecting and there's history and it probably didn't do a whole lot, but they all have a 44 Magnum shell in their bedroom that they made with their own hands. So maybe they'll get to see that we're not the bad guys that the media portrays. We're not. I mean, there are people that do bad things with these, but there are people that do bad things with other items every single day. And guns are not just for hunting.
And see, that was no sweat off your back, so that's what I mean.
I had fun because, I'm not the best uncle in the world. It's not that I'm mean or anything, but it's just, I don't really know especially with nieces. I didn't grow up with sisters. I don't know what to do. I have all sons, so I don't know what to do with girls. Because they're making arts and crafts and playing games on Facebook and stuff like that, and I don't know none of that stuff. So when they want to use a reload press, hey, absolutely, sure, because girls can do that stuff too. I'm not one of these guys that thinks that women can't do this stuff. And so it really wasn't much, but that's an example of how you can maybe make a difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We got us a statement out in the chat here on YouTube from Bullseye Shooting. Wow, only Republicans are pro-gun. Do you really listen to yourself? Well,
I wish they were all pro-gun.
To me, I'm not. A Democrat could be pro-gun up to a point, but if it came down to, who did he vote for? Did he vote for a Democrat who has anti-gun leanings? Then how can he be pro-gun? Explain it to me.
Well, there's not all Republicans are pro-gun. I know lots of them that aren't. So, but you just don't. I don't use those labels. I won't say, oh, it's a Democrat, oh, it's a Republican thing. That
you're anti-gun as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's just no consequence, because if there is somebody that actually is, and they're just voting because whatever, if you push the pro-gun stuff, then that's what you want to focus on. You don't want to focus on all that other.
What I'm saying, if you happen to push the button on somebody to elect to an office who's anti-gun or proposes or voted yes for every anti-gun bill that came across whatever Congress they're in, you're willing to give away your rights, but you're pro-gun. It doesn't compute in my mind.
Yeah, but
that's just me. Maybe
it's just if you throw it up as a Democrat thing, that you're just, they're all wrong or whatever. If there's somebody that's,
Yeah,
whatever.
I see where you're coming from there.
Yeah, I just focus on the pro-gun, the anti-gun, And the rest of it, that just falls in line later,
Yeah.
when you're discussing that kind of stuff. Now, if you're discussing other things that deal with, Democrat, Republican stuff, or independence, all that kind of stuff, then that's different. But if it relates to guns, I talk about guns, and as long as they don't jump on that hunting thing, or
Yeah. So
Well, I look at things a little differently than I guess most people. I look at things from a conservative Christian point of view. And, if a candidate or their party goes so far left that basically anything goes except for, guns and Christianity and conservatism, I have issues with that. They preach tolerance, but they are the most intolerant people out there.
But see, that's on both sides though as well. There's a lot of Republicans that are swing both ways.
I don't know. I mean, I think that we're taking it more than we're dishing it out, though.
Yeah.
I think conservatives have been painted as the bad guys. Traditionally, they're the bad guys. And conservatives trying not to make an example out of themselves by being the stereotype, more or less bend over and take it. So that they say, no, see, I'm not being the bad guy, but it doesn't matter. You try to do the right thing and you're told you're wrong. But these people that say you have to accept everybody don't want to accept us. We're trying to accept them. But yeah, there are fringes on both sides that are really hardcore, really bad examples of both sides of the coin. And unfortunately, that's how everybody gets judged. I mean, I do it myself as far as when I'm looking at a certain kind of person or a certain kind of thing, I'm looking at the worst case scenario based on my experience, as opposed to weeding out the handful of really good scenarios based on my experience. So I'm not surprised when other people do the same thing.
When you've got the media that is primarily left wing, who paints anybody conservative as an alt-right person, they were all KKK, anti-minority, anti-black, anti-freedom, anti-everything as far as they're concerned. And that's how they paint us daily, multiple times a day in the media. And if you tell somebody something enough times, they start to believe it. And that's what's happened, with our country. So many people watch the news, they hear about us crazy right-wing gun people on the alt-right, and they don't realize that the media is deliberately painting that picture because they have an agenda.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm 30, 40 years ago. I mean, I think back in the day, you could have both sides of the aisle going for gun rights. But over the years, it's changed. I don't know how, but I mean, well, socialism or communism, whatever you want to call it, has crept into our politics, unfortunately. So, what can you say? And now it's guns are bad for us. They want to control us. They think if we controlled everything, everybody would be living in utopia and the perfect United States. we'll all be happy. We'll all have that one house with a white picket fence, 2 cars in the garage, and everything will be roses. Well, I'm sorry, that's a bunch of bullshit. That's dreaming unicorns and goddamn nice smelling farts. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that is my personal opinion. Whether, as I've said, I talk about what's on my mind.
a country that has an unarmed citizenry is subject to any type of tyranny. An armed society is not only a polite society, but they are not a society that will be ran by tyranny.
Yeah.
And our socialist, leftist, even communist type people on the left, even those who don't even realize what it is that they're pushing, they are trying their best to push us into this false, like you said, utopia, like the Soviet Union was supposed to have been, like Hitler's Germany was supposed to have been, like Venezuela's communist government has claimed that they're going to have. Cuba, look through history, every time, China, every time a government has disarmed its citizenry, they went into a tyranny, and the tyranny ruined the country, and it put the people there into poverty. North Korea, I mean, people are starving to death in North Korea, and they can't rise up against their government because they're not allowed to have any type of weapon.
Well, it's not so bad if you're in charge.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're in charge, if you're the dictator, everything's great.
You know, socialism just hasn't, and communism just hasn't been done right yet. You guys are forgetting.
Yeah.
That's the important part.
That's right.
You know,
they need the Hollywood types, the movie stars that control it.
The United States is going to get it right.
That's what I like about that. That's what I like about that comment right there, is it shows just how narcissistic these people are, because all throughout human history, every time communism, socialism has ever been tried, it's failed miserably. But they think that they can do it because, of course, they're the ones. Ocasio-Cortez, she's the one that knows how to do it right.
Oh yeah.
When I was talking to that family member that's Democrat and says he's pro-gun, but he's really not. He did talk when we were having, and we try to avoid politics, we really do, but we had that conversation. He did say something to the effect of, communism isn't a bad thing, it just hasn't been done long enough to prove that it works, or something to that effect. So when you say that, it's just, I get this chill, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Well, and you think about it,
even the Venezuela leader has admitted that their ideas have not worked.
Yeah. Well, I haven't liked the Russians since they gave Rocky brain damage. So,
yeah,
America's 243 years old. So let's give capitalism, let's give this personal freedom thing a little bit more time. I think it's been working pretty good so far.
So do I. Okay, good example. Instead of going there, take England, for example.
I don't want it.
They always had strict gun laws, but you could get a gun. Today, they've got even stricter gun laws, and it's hard to get one if you can get one. So the criminals can get them. They got a great black market for guns in England, but your average criminal has gone to knives. Now they want to ban knives. They want to bring in a law to ban pocket knives or any kind of knife that isn't a butter knife, basically. But the people there are at the whim of the government. They can't fight back because how can they fight back?
Well, also over in England where they've banned the guns and they're trying to ban your sharp-edged weapons, the media always avoids talking about the chemical attacks that have been on the rise.
Y-
You know, these people, if we're talking about, you know, radical Islam, or if we're talking about, you know, the idiot on the corner that just doesn't like being nice to people, they're gonna find ways to be mean to people.
Oh yeah.
The big thing with England, the reason I think they have such a hard time is I think it's their language, right? Because if you know criminals said they were ski masked and didn't call them those cool words like balaclavas or whatever they call them, you know, they got all those fancy words for the bad guy stuff. I think that's kind of might be appealing. You know, I mean, I wouldn't mind buying a balaclava if I,
Yeah.
it's better than just a
Ski
ski
mask.
mask.
You know, it's better than a ski mask, a balaclava.
I can kill people just as easily with a pair of chopsticks as I can with a gun. The only difference is I have to get closer to them.
Yeah. Oh, talking about that, here you go. I'm going to be an anti-gunner right now. Let me throw this at you. Since we know it hasn't happened yet, but 99% sure when the new Congress comes together in January with the Democrats holding the majority in the House, I think we're going to see a lot of anti-gun bills come through. Anti-gun to us. To them, they think they're great. But where I'm going with this is we've got to find a new strategy. I don't know. Now, problem is, I know what the problem is. I haven't figured out the solution yet. For a good example, I mean, what's that figure they were throwing around a couple of years ago? 30,000 people die every year by gun. But then we come back with quotes like, well, 20,000 of those were suicide. To the anti-gunner, that's still 20,000 dead people killed by a gun is what they're looking at. They don't care if it was like we separate that. I mean, it's still a dead person that was killed by a weapon. You know, we try to justify it. You know,
I didn't get very much sleep last night because I was so busy chasing my firearms all over the neighborhood. I'm not sure how they figured out how to unlock the door, but they were all over the neighborhood. I had to, I had to rustle them all together. I guess I got to lock them up a little bit better so while I'm sleeping, they don't hop out of their cases and run all over my neighborhood without me.
Oh yeah. I totally understand that. You know, so. But it's just but what I'm saying is we got to come up with a different strategy. And where I'm going is we can't. I've said this before. We can't quote figures at them because they're not interested. You know, we can't say, well, you know, if you take from 1990 to now, there's only been X amount of this, and you go to the FBI statistics. They don't care about statistics. So we've got to come up with a different method of getting our message across. And I don't know what it is.
They're about feelings. They're not about facts. And unfortunately, the only way to get to their feelings is to go to a place that none of us are going to go. If you hate these things, you refuse to try to learn anything. You don't have to be an expert, but just learn some stuff to dispel the myth. If you refuse to associate with people that believe in freedom and all this stuff that you hear these people say that is just so far the other way. The only way they're ever going to come to you and say, can you teach me about guns, is if something awful happens to them and they feel helpless and they say, what if I had an equalizer? What if I was prepared? What if I was trained? What if I knew? Unfortunately, though, nobody wants that to happen. I definitely don't. I don't want somebody to go through a tragedy to wake up. I don't want that, even though that's unfortunately the only way to get to their feelings. I'm not encouraging anybody to do it. I don't want to see it. The other thing is some people will go through that tragedy And instead of going, what can I do to stop this from happening to my family, my loved ones, or myself ever again, and then they take action, instead they get further deeper the other way. So for some people, it doesn't even, there are people that are so messed up in the head that they will blame themselves for getting assaulted by somebody. And I know that sounds stupid, but there are people that it's like, no, you need to be able to protect yourself. No.
For these guys that are so scared, you just have to explain that, they're wanting everybody to give up their firearms, and they want just President Trump to have them. So, I think that's another angle, since they're so crazy.
I tried that one, and that didn't work. But, like when I was with the kids, and I was showing them, I showed them what the primer was, and explained to them how it went off, and how the powder burned, and all that. And I explained to them like you would in science class in elementary or junior high school. And they were afraid that the powder was just going to explode on its own. I'm like, no, it won't burn. So what I did was I actually put some powder on the reload bench, and I lit on fire. And they all saw it. And I said, it's got to be inside a container. It's got to be pressurized. It's got to, I was trying to go into some of the science of it, and I was letting them know, look, this thing by itself will not go off unless you put it in a gun and shoot it, or maybe if you put it in a vise and hit it with a hammer, or if you apply heat or electricity to it long enough, otherwise this thing will be good for 100 years, and it's totally safe. If it wasn't, why would I be able to do this in my home? Why would people be able to carry them around without them just exploding? So I wanted to dispel some of those myths and explain to the kids so that they got to see that this is an average everyday thing for some people. And just because it's not an average everyday thing for them doesn't mean that they should shun people who it is, or that maybe one day it does become an average everyday thing for them. And they can see that this stuff is safe if it's handled safely. And that's the top priority, whether I'm at work or whether I'm doing my hobby, is safety.
Yeah. Grim says, great lesson there, Squib. So, yeah, that makes sense what you said there. I agree. We need to teach it. We need to teach it that, that guns are nothing to be scared of, but they need to be handled properly, because they can be dangerous if not handled correctly.
Well, the old saying that guns don't kill people, people kill people, as cliche as it is true. Because you take and set a gun down on a table, it's not going to jump up and start shooting people.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I tell you what, my M&P 45 has been sitting on my my chest of drawers in my bedroom there for 3 days now. It hasn't moved. It's gathering dust, So I don't see how it's going to hurt anybody unless somebody picks it up and pulls the trigger.
Well, and you got the same
really
people.
The heart. I'm sorry, Dad. Go ahead.
I apologize. You go ahead.
I was just saying that, the problem isn't the guns. It isn't the bullets. It isn't how scary the gun looks. It's the heart of the person. And, I know I'm getting religious here, but, when we're telling our kids that life doesn't really have any meaning or any intrinsic value, that we were just an accident of evolution, and we're no different from any other animal. These kids grow up believing this, and if they're so inclined, it doesn't bother them to pick up a gun and shoot people, or pick up a knife and stab people if it gets them what they want. Because what's the problem with it? There's no intrinsic value to life. We're just an accident of evolution.
Yeah, you got a point there. They don't put a value on life. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I mean, it's our God-given right, the Second Amendment. It's in the Bill of Rights. But even schools, they won't let you, I think they just gloss over the Second Amendment real quick. You know what I'm saying? They don't explain it to anybody.
Wheelchair has a point. My mom brought me up right, and if you said, why don't you murder somebody if they piss you off that bad? First, because I'm a Christian. Second, because it's against the law. Third, morality. Maybe morality second, and the law the third. I don't know. But the first go-to is because I'm a Christian. Now, you don't have to be religious. You don't have to be a Christian. You could be an atheist and still go with the morality part of it before you say the law. And if morality isn't important to you, then you're just saying, I don't want to go to jail for breaking the law. But I mean, those are three things right there, but they all have, well, the law, not so much, but morality and religion has ethics to it, and it has a consequence. Whereas the law, well, maybe not so much, because we can argue it in a court with a lawyer, right?
Yep.
The biggest thing about that is you have to have parents that pass that on, because it's not a school thing, it's not a community thing, it's not friends on the street. It's from families and parents that need to push that. Be it if you're an aunt or an uncle, even a grandparent.
And if you don't have family that teaches you that, you're going to listen to whatever you're taught in school.
Well, that's why, like, some of the storage stuff kind of boggles my mind. You know, everybody's kind of touched on it. When I was a kid, we had an old school gun rack. You know, you hang it on the wall and hang your guns on it. And that gun rack hung right over top of my bed. Now, they were my brother's guns. They weren't mine. So, and I never touched them. Not one time. I played with the ammo. You know, I'd take ammo around and play with it, but I never ever touched his firearms. Not because I was afraid of the firearms, because I was afraid that if I broke one of them, he'd come home and pummel me to death. And then I'd have to deal with my dad. I just knew, don't touch those. They don't belong to you. They're not yours. Leave them alone.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm reading the chats here. I don't know if anybody else is. You know. So I don't know. As I said, I don't know what the answer is, but we need. I think it starts at that level, at the kids' level. I think things need to change in schools. Why?
I think they should start before school.
Well, but if school, what's going to take? What I'm scared of is what they're teaching in school. The people that are coming out of high school, going to college, coming out of college, right, are people that don't think like we do. And it's scary. It's scary. You know, they don't see. I mean, I know I lived in England for 30 years, and the Second Amendment, you know, I knew it was there, and I knew what it said, but it wasn't until I started getting into guns and stuff that I really understood. I'm not even sure if I still understand what it means totally. I'm allowed to have a gun to protect myself, and I have a gun to stop the government trying to be like it was when the Revolutionary War started, when they were being ruled by England. You know, England said you got to pay these taxes, but basically what they said, we had no representation in the British government. You know, and I can understand. I mean, to me, I understand. We don't want that to happen again, and that's why the Second Amendment was put there. That's how my basics of it, you know, and it's I don't know. I mean, it just seems to. I'm lost for words on how to get around this. I mean, with Democrats winning the House has got me scared, to be honest with you. It's got me scared because I can see them pushing bills to the Senate. And, oh, yeah, we're safe because we got the majority in the Senate. But there's some rhinos there, and it don't take much to make it, where we lose the vote.
Rick, you brought up a good point about it's in the Constitution for a reason. And the main reason I'm pro 2A is because weapons for the citizens is in the Constitution. Not because I collect them, not because I enjoy reloading, not because of hunting, not because of target shooting, not because of the family time we get, not because of the value they hold, not because of self-defense, not because of any of the reasons. I'm not saying that everybody needs to be a constitutionalist first and concealed carrier second, something like that. But because so many people are into it for so many different reasons, you have the gun community kind of diluted because some people are only concerned about what parts of the laws affect them. And rightly so, too. You should vote with your conscience. You should vote with what affects you and your family and stuff like that. But the thing is, when that person has to justify why should we have guns, they don't go to the Constitution first. They don't go to the Revolution first. They don't go to any of that stuff first. What they say is, well, because I want to have my toys. Well, because I like to be free guns. Well, because I hunt. Well, because I don't feel safe walking through the neighborhood at night, so I need an equalizer. And all those things are legitimate reasons. But if you're going to get behind the Second Amendment and defend the Second Amendment, then you might want to think about when you're addressing somebody who doesn't understand it, you might want to think about using that because all of these other reasons to have them, if somebody's really good at debating, they can argue all of them away.
Well, I have something to mention about the schools.
Yeah.
The Patriots Day, September 11th rolled around, and my daughter, she's good on all of them. She knows all the holidays. She brings them up, whatever. She had dressed up, red, white, and blue. She made sure she had patriotic stuff on. She went to school. Well, she came home and she was upset. I'm like, well, what's going on? She's like, well, nobody said anything about it. Not a single word, And I was like, well, was anybody dressed up? And she said, nope. It was just average every day. Okay. And so I was kind of upset about it. So, I had sent some emails to the principals wondering, hey, I guess whatever, just stating that, that's something that we should do, to remember. Then Veterans Day came along. Same thing. Didn't mention nothing. Monday came and went. Of course, it was Sunday, but it was observed Monday. Didn't say a thing. I was irate. So I shot off. They do these online surveys of how the school, what they need to do better, and so I go through and I'm pretty crazy, whatever. Next day comes along, and she comes home. She says, I asked her how her day was. She says, oh, today was World Day. So we celebrated World Kindness Day at school today in lieu of Veterans Day or Patriots Day or, any of that. Yeah. So needless to say, I had set up some meetings with the administration. They don't like the crazy blind guy, but they're not teaching the stuff.
No, they're not.
Had teachers that said the Second Amendment.
Well, patriotism is a terrible bad thing. As far as the left is concerned, we're supposed to have a outlook of being one world, not individual countries. Nationalism is a terrible bad thing.
Their definition of it.
And what
Donald Trump said he was a nationalist because he put his country first.
Yep.
And America first.
But we're a blended country, so that is fine. That's not racist because we are full of every nation in the world. but we're a one nation, you know, and so being a nationalist from America is a lot different than being, you know, from another country that's not as diverse or whatever. But I did want to mention you didn't do your quiz.
Oh, yes. I was thinking about that. I'm going to do it right now.
Okay. I just wanted to mention it while you had people sitting.
Yeah, last week, it was for an all-American patriot ready to defend hat. And the question was, in the TV series of Lethal Weapon, in the season 1 now, they're in the 3rd season right now, by the way, if anybody's interested. I found that out, too. In season 1, episode 1, Detective Sergeant Roger Murtaugh carried a 9mm 6RP 226. But in the rest of the season, what gun did he carry? And the answer was an H&K USP 40 Smith & Wesson. That was the answer. So, and I had a grand total of 3 entries. So it was a pretty tough question. So, but I got all the names in my picker here. Let me hit the button and see who wins. Rich White is the winner of that hat. Rich was in here. I think Rich was in here, wasn't he? Or maybe not. But he's the winner of that hat. And now, while I'm here, that was that one. So remember, write that down. Rich White won the hat. Let me write that down. Don't forget. Okay. Now, for the next question, it's this one. Stick to your guns, America. Hat. This is for next week's mail-in quiz. You don't write it in the chat. If you do, and somebody sees it, I mean, write it in the chat and you have it right, don't make no difference. I ain't looking at it. So I want it mailed in to rickslifeasIseeit@gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com. Now, here's the question. You guys are going to love this one. All right. In the film Quigley Down Under, there was a character in there called Dorkin. I want to know what make and model of gun he carried. It was a special edition, I believe. Okay, now, so in the film Quigley Down Under, there was a character called Dobkin on there, and I want to know what make and model of gun he carried. I think it was a special edition. Now,
his name was Dorkin?
Dorkin, D-O-B, or Dobkin, D-O-B-K-I-N. But so I'll make it easier for you guys because I feel generous today. The actual actor's name who played that character was Tony Bonner, B-O-N-N-E-R. So that's all the clues I'm giving you. So mail in the answer to rickslife@gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com. There you go. I thought that was a good one. I thought, so let's see who answers me. All right. So what else have I got on my list here? Oh, yeah. I mean, I know he said it in jest, but what do you guys? I mean, I ranted and raved about this a little while ago before we came on air or whatever. But as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, well, we say stuff and the other side gets all bent out of shape, even though we said it in jest. So what's good for them is good for us, if you know what I mean. But that one senator who wants to do the buyback program on assault weapons, whatever assault weapons are, and he said if people don't, I'm paraphrasing here, if people don't follow the law and turn them in, and they say no, he goes, well, the government's got nukes. So, like, you can nuke the, we put up a fight, they're just nuke us.
He doesn't have the authority to release the nukes, for one thing.
I know, but and he claims he said it in jest, and maybe he did, But for a congressman, my original thought was for somebody in a high position as a senator in the United States Congress, it was a bit, over the top. But then again, Trump said stuff, and they've taken it the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, even if he was joking, which I'm sure he was, about the nukes part, the meaning of what he's saying is we have a lot bigger of a force than you do. So if we have to come take your stuff, we'll gladly come and kick in your house with a SWAT team and take it.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just
Certainly
like
is the inference, yes.
Yeah. And hey, they've already done it there in Maryland. The guy paid the price for it. I was thinking about that. I think if somebody come pounding on my door at 5 o'clock in the morning, I would open it up with my 45 in my hand. You know what I'm saying? Or hidden behind my back, my gun would be there. You don't know who in the hell's at the door.
Well, I had the police knock on my door. It was about 12 o'clock at night this past week. My son had left the door open on my minivan, and they were stopping to see if everything was okay and if anything was stolen and so on. But I didn't know. I went to the door with my CZ in my hand.
And what they?
Well, when I saw it was them, I set it down, and they were like fine with it. And then I bragged about it a little bit and cleared it and showed it to them and let them drool over it a little bit. And everything was fine, but it just shows you, you don't know who is at your door banging at midnight, and so anybody is going to look for some type of protection. You see these guys pick up a ball bat to go check their house for a burglar. If they had a gun, they'd pick it up and go check for a burglar.
I think looking at the time that they decided to serve the warrant has some weight to it. And I think looking overall at the law that got the warrant served is something that has some weight that needs to be looked at. But, Sarge has talked about this on his show, and he's in law enforcement, and he's explaining the other side. And I look at him as the voice of reason sometimes when we're looking at the headlines or we're getting steamed. And I'm not saying what happened was right, but apparently the guy set the gun down and then at a later point reached for the gun. Now we don't know why. Did he reach just to hand it to him? Did he reach to clear it to make sure they weren't getting a hold of it, or was he trying to?
We do know why. We do know exactly why. The police report said why. When they told the guy saw that it was cops at his house, and he put the gun down because he's talking to the police. And then the cops said, "We're here to serve this ERPO, the red flag order," and he got pissed off. So he picked his gun back up. Now, from there we don't know. From there, we don't know, was he going to assault the police officers? Was he just not going to let them take his property? That we don't know because he's dead and he's not going to be able to tell anybody.
Right, but at that point it was on him. And I'm not saying that you need to bend over and take it, but that was not the place to be doing that thing, because we all know if a cop thinks he sees a gun, he's going to blow you away. Okay, sure. So I see both sides of it. I see the side that you don't want to make the cops nervous, but the cops are too damn nervous. Both sides have their faults.
The one part about, and I've got gobs and gobs of respect for Sarge. I like his content on his channel, and listening to him talk on the live streams, I have a ton of respect for him. But the thing is, Maryland's law is written in a way that it doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad guy, and he's been a bad guy, and that's why they're going after his guns. because it talks about aggressive behavior or aggressive speech, which can be construed as almost anything. You know, there's a bunch of different reasons that you can apply for these, and all of them are very, very vague. Not one of them came right out and said, you know, he's a, you know, a blood or a crip and he's killed 50 people. It didn't say that. You know,
Well,
but so
aggressive speech, that could apply to any one of us.
well,
And my problem is more with the law itself and with the time that they decided to serve this warrant. I think, you know, if he really was violent or he had a criminal history or they knew that those guns were illegal, maybe then doing it at 5 a.m, but not under these circumstances. I think that it would have had a better result if they'd come by at lunchtime or something like that.
That's
The root of it though is the law. The law is the big problem. It's a ridiculous law. And I know some people say, so what you're saying is until somebody commits an act, we shouldn't do anything. Well, maybe.
Yeah.
And my thing about that is if we all had the right to carry anything, anywhere, at any time, without any question, and there were laws protecting us when we are using deadly force in self-defense or in defense of others, if there were laws to protect us and we could just do, then you're going to see less crime and you're going to see people making better choices in life because they know that they're not going to be the one with all the power. The problem with that is you're going to have some people that make a mistake and they're going to use those as the examples against us, not the people that actually would use it in self-defense. And then Sarge was bringing up the fact that there are some people that are unable or unwilling to carry a weapon or train or you would not use it in self-defense. That's not my problem. That is not my problem. You want to take away my rights. And I'm not saying this at Sarge. I'm saying this at the people who are like, I can't kill another person. If that person was killing your kid, you're telling me you couldn't kill them? Bull crap. You know, but it's not my fault or my problem that you don't want to take the steps. So don't take away my rights to do that. If we all had the right to carry weapons anywhere at any time, and if we used them only when we absolutely had to, and we used them in self-defense and defense of others, you wouldn't need these goofy red flag laws because you wouldn't have so many people that you would have to be keeping an eye on about doing something because they wouldn't do it because, with the exception of the ones that want to commit suicide anyhow, because they'd be walking into a place to shoot it up and everybody'd point a gun at him and he'd realize, oh crap, it's not a soft target anymore. But because there are people who are unwilling or unable to defend themselves, to use force to defend themselves, or don't want to get a gun, or don't want to carry a knife, or a stun gun, or take martial arts class, or whatever the hell it is, then I have to suffer? I'm sorry. I don't believe in that. That's crap.
I'm an advocate for intercoms as well. Being a blind guy, if anybody shows up at my door at 2 a.m. or 5 a.m. or 4 a.m., I use an intercom because my door doesn't open unless I know who it is and stuff, and they're on camera and it's got floodlights out there. So, when they say, "Oh, we're the police," that's when I ask, well, who's the second lieutenant on night shift or day shift? So that it's got to be who it is. That's just a side note, just because I'm a blind guy and I don't trust anybody.
Just real quick, I gotta hop off here, Rick. So thanks for having me. Appreciate the conversation, everybody. But these red flag laws are civil reports. They're not criminal. So I mean, I don't know why. Maybe go back to Sarge. Being an experienced officer, maybe he could explain. Do you normally serve a civil warrant or a civil protective order or whatever it is at 5 o'clock in the morning?
David, if the person requesting the protection order because they're in fear of their life had an equalizer and knew how to use it and was willing to use it, what would you need the protection orders for? Right?
No,
you wouldn't need them. You wouldn't need them at all.
Anyway, thanks for being here, David.
All right, everybody, have a good day. I appreciate it.
Take care, David.
Bye.
And we got Tony back.
We've been saying for years, pry it out of my cold, dead hands. And, this guy is an example of taking it out of his cold, dead hand.
That's right. So, I mean, what would you do if somebody said, I think you are a danger to people or others, and they came knocking on your door. I mean, personally, myself, if the police came to my door, yes, I would have the gun in my hand, but they said, we've been said we got to serve you with a, so-and-so, whatever the name of the law is here in Indiana, if there is one here, I have to check. I mean, as a law-abiding citizen, I'm going to follow the law, which even though the law is wrong in that case, I think it is. I think it's wrong that they can come and take my guns without my day in court first. I get my day in court, but not at the beginning. I get it afterwards. So I got to prove I'm innocent. I'm guilty before, I'm guilty, and I got to prove.
And that's where I have a problem with it. That's why I have, and I understand the people that say, well, yeah, but you let somebody commit a crime before you would, well, kind of, because we're innocent until proven guilty. Just because they do that, I mean, hey, you keep an eye on it. You have an interview, maybe it's wrong. Well, let's do it.
You ain't a criminal until you commit the fucking crime.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but the way these red flag laws are, the way these laws are, no, you're a criminal before you commit the crime.
Yeah.
They come in because the judge can issue an order for them to come and confiscate your weapons.
I got a question
that's
about
without
that.
due process.
You have no say so in the matter at that time. I mean, where I'm going with that, I'm going on Rhode Island when I lived there. They had the red flag law. They said they would give you a court date within 14 days. I don't think it would be that quick myself, but to go to court and explain your side of the story, and if they say, okay, you're not a danger, you get your guns back. I mean, I should have my day in court before they come and serve the goddamn thing to say to come and confiscate it.
If they show up and they have a warrant, right, and they say, okay, I'm here to pick up your firearms, right, and you say, okay, and they say, okay, well, you got to open up your safe, and you open up your safe, and they take your firearms out of there. Now, do they say, okay, here's a paper that says that we have all your guns and you don't have any hidden in your shower, in your, or wherever else that you have them hidden? Is that what happens? Or is it, you got to give them, you go get them and you bring them in here or point them out? I'm sure they do some kind of crazy thing where you can't just accidentally forget you had.
I would imagine they search your house, which then again, that's search and seizure,
It all depends on what's on the warrant, I guess.
It's strange how that one gets across, So,
well, if it saves one life.
Yes, if it saves one life, that's all that matters.
It's
I'll bet everybody in America if it saves one life.
It already lost one, so they're already down.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I understand there is. I mean, yes, there's got to be people out there who have emotional issues, who maybe shouldn't have a firearm. And they might be a threat to themselves or others. But there's got to be a better way. I mean, I think that person should be taken to court or something. And I don't know. There's got to be a better way than what this is.
Yeah, there is. There is. Everybody should responsibly arm themselves. Because if it could just save one life.
See, I think this is a ploy. Because I have people I know that are crazy anti-gunners. And I think it's just them wanting more Christmas presents at Christmas so that they won't turn me in or something. I can see that happening.
Well, it's definitely a ploy. I mean, they're looking for the opportunity to strip everybody that they can of their weapons. And it's just a matter of tweaking the wording of the law to, oh, well, if they're anti-establishment, then they need to be disarmed. Well, that's every one of us. I mean, we talk about the Second Amendment and how things, the anti-gun laws and so on, they could easily twist that into we're subversive to the United States and need to be disarmed.
I'm going to raise a grand imperial army to deal with the threat of the separatists.
Well, I mean, you know, as I was saying earlier, the Second Amendment is a right. Right? It says, you know.
No, it's just a protection of a right. It's not right.
But
What do you
right
mean?
is God given.
The Second Amendment just protects us from the government infringing on a right we already have.
Yes.
The Second Amendment isn't a right. It's just a protection.
Sorry, okay, yeah, you're right. I mean, I worded that wrong.
No, it's okay. I like to pick on
I understand what. Yes,
I had to do it before.
protecting the right that was God given, or you know, what's the actual word they use? There's a word they use for instead of God. There's another word they use.
We are endowed by our Creator.
Yeah.
Unalienable.
Inalienable. That's it. Right.
From Mars.
You know. So, but the problem is, even today, with all the anti-gun shit against this, right? And even we have to pay the state a fee. I mean, I'm not talking about constitutional states, of course, but the majority of other states, we have to pay a fee to be able to carry a license, you know, to be able to carry a gun. I mean, they're turning it into a privilege.
Well, you got to focus on.
If you don't pay this fee, then you can't carry. But you pay this fee, then we'll give you the privilege of carrying your gun. The Second Amendment says I can do it anyway.
Well, you just remember that the Second Amendment is not just firearms.
No, you're right. Yeah.
I mean, and that's what we focus on. But I mean, there's probably, you know, spear carriers that you know, call for the legal right to carry a spear or a bolo or whatever.
Well, I mean, can the turtle walk down the street with his two swords on his back?
If you pick up anything and use it as a weapon, then you're bearing an arm. Now, the traditional view is somebody, holding a gun, holding a sword, holding a spear, holding a knife, holding a club. But anything that you can use as a weapon,
ashtray.
is you're picking it up and you're using it, you're bearing an arm. So
yeah. Well, that's like the insurance I carry, USCCA. You know, one of the criteria that I looked at before I signed up with them was that it was not just guns, that they would cover me if I use any weapon or anything in self-defense. You know, like I said earlier with chopsticks, you know, pocket knife, a rock. If I'm using it in self-defense, I want to know that they're going to be there to back me. And that's why I went with them, because so many of the others are limited to guns only.
Well, you better be sure that ain't a fully semi-automatic rock.
No, that's true.
Yeah, that's fully
Assault
semi.
rock.
It's fully semi, you know, could be in trouble. You know? So, there we go. Anything else you guys want to talk about? Or we can wind it up. I know we want to be going an extra 15 minutes so far, but, you know, what else have I got written down here? We got that. We talked about that. We talked about that. I got all my list. Just on a personal note, I noticed that they released the thing back from, was it back in August or whenever? I can't remember when it was now, when the killer of John Lennon went up for parole. They denied him, but he does say he regrets doing it now. He done it for, he wanted to be famous. He wanted the notoriety of doing something.
Some bitch could have killed Yoko.
You know, yeah.
I thought he did it to impress Jodie Foster, or was that Hinckley?
That was one that shot Reagan.
Yeah.
Okay, that was Hinckley.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just they just happened to. I saw a little news clip of it, or read a little news clip of it, but they denied him anyway, and he don't come up to parole again now to 2020. But
that's like just a little over next year.
Yeah, but unless I misread it, I thought. I mean, yes, he killed somebody. I mean, it's amazing that he only got life in prison, not the death sentence. You know,
Good. Save us a lot of money.
Yeah, because it's cost us a fortune to keep him. He's been in jail for over 30 years now, and but where I was going with this, part of the reason they denied him was safety. Not so much that he would hurt somebody, as somebody would hurt him. You know, is that a fair reason to keep somebody in jail? You know,
Protective custody.
True, it was murder. Personally, I don't think he should be allowed. I don't think he should be paroled anyway. I think he should die in prison. But if they're giving him a chance to parole, but to deny him because somebody might hurt him, to me, is kind of, putting the cart before the horse. They're denying.
That is kind of a dumb reason.
What?
That is a dumb reason.
Yeah, unless I misread it, but that's the way
Well, I'm sure they're probably right because there's a lot of people that worship John Lennon.
Oh yeah, and even to this day, there's people that still do. So there could be somebody out there that would kill him. You know. Rich said the Second Amendment does not stipulate small arms, rifles, pistols, swords, knives, etc. It just says arms, which includes all military weapons. You know?
Any weapon, yeah.
So
theoretically, I could own a cannon, or is that against the law now?
Can you bear that thing?
It is against the law now, but, like Rich is saying, the whole purpose behind the Second Amendment was so that a tyrannical government could be kicked out, and we are supposed to be able to have access to any weapon that our military can have access to.
Yeah, I mean, well, they took that away from us when they banned machine guns. What was that?
Okay, hold up. Stop, both of you. One, cannons are not against the law. You just have to have permits. Yep. Two, machine guns are not banned. You just have to have permits. So when you say it, I know what you're trying to do. You're just abbreviating and you're just saying it in a broad general term. The problem is when we say that, you have people on the other side go, see, we were right. And it's like, no, you can own these things. They are absolutely 110% legal to own. You just have to have certain permits. Now, in some states, maybe the state, at a state level, they've made it illegal. But at a federal level, this stuff just requires tax stamps or things of that nature.
But see, that goes back to what I was saying about a carry permit. We're having to pay to have our rights.
Right. I'm not justifying the fact that you have to pay for a right. But when you say these are illegal, no, they're not. And that's right. That's part of the myth. That's part of the myth that people that don't want to take the time to understand stuff, and they just feed into that. So we have to be careful what we say if we want to be understood.
You're right.
You're right.
Silencer is not illegal. You just got to pay a $200 stamp for it.
And wait a year to get the stamp back if they approve it. And you got to have, like $20,000 to purchase any particular item that you want to buy, because you can buy a machine gun for less than that.
The Second Amendment doesn't say it has to be cheap and everybody can afford it. Unfortunately, doesn't say anything about money.
But then again,
I mean, you could live in a cardboard box and still have a saw.
Point. Machine guns were banned from being made after 1986
in the U.S.
Yeah.
You can't.
No, that's not true either. That's a broad generalization of the law. That is absolutely untrue. If you want to own a brand new machine gun, you can. There are ways to do it legally. It requires a lot of paperwork, it requires money, and it requires you to follow strict laws. But you can own a brand spanking new full auto if you want to go to all the troubles.
I thought it was anything prior to 1986. You could own.
If you're an FFL with an SOT, you can have a brand spanking new full auto. Well, not all of us are FFLs with an SOT.
A company can, but a civilian can't.
If you're the holder of the FFL, it is your gun store, your gun manufacturing. Then what's the difference?
A company is not a civilian.
You're not following what I'm saying. It's under your control. It's in your vault. You're the one who built it or bought it. You can have it. It's just a pain in the butt. It's money. It's restrictions. Not only that, but there aren't a whole lot of places that some people have that they can take these things and shoot them. If you own 100 acres in the country and you've got a cannon, then I don't think you're going to have a problem shooting it. But if you've got a duplex in the suburbs, what are you going to do? Shoot it in your backyard?
You hook it to your boat and you go sailing.
Well, I have to go across the line into South Carolina to an outdoor range just to shoot my pistol. Because I live within the city limits where I'm at.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm not saying that these things are right. I'm not saying they're right at all. But we need to... When you have an anti-gunner going, well, you can't have that. That's full auto. That's illegal. Oh, really? Have you ever heard of the NFA? What's that? And you educate them and you let them know there are ways to do this. It's a pain in the butt. It's such a pain in the butt. Most people, like me, ain't going to go to the trouble of it. We're just not.
But they aren't banned.
Yeah.
Right.
And you hear a lot of people say that they are and everything, and that is frustrating for sure.
Well, I mean, I'm not big into rifles and stuff, but, you know, I was under the idea that anything after 1986 was banned. So that just shows even somebody who's in the gun community can be ignorant to the facts.
Well, here's the thing, though. How many people do you know that are FFLs with an SOT? I only know one.
I know one, but I don't know him like
readily available. You do have to go through a whole huge process.
Yeah, it's such a pain. It ain't worth it. But I mean, whatever.
Yeah, but I'm reading what Dead Horse is saying here, right? They are any ownership of a new manufactured since '86 are banned for civilians' use and ownership. A company can own one, but a single person, as Rick Mitchell, cannot own a brand new spanking machine.
Right, but if you have a Rick Mitchell firearms and you do the paperwork and you've got the proper licenses, it's in your store, it's in your vault, and you're the one responsible for it. So what's the difference?
The point is there's ways you can get them.
Later, Rich. Yeah. I see where you're coming from there, Squib. But, I mean, is it, we're talking semantics here, you know what I'm saying? So...
Well, part of it is the optics to the antis, because they're trying to get rid of the AR by saying we banned the fully auto ones. Well, no, you fucking didn't.
Right, and if you go in with the whole they're banned, what you're doing is you're saying what they're saying. They're bad, and they're not.
No.
But the simple fact that it's not common knowledge, even within our community, it's not common knowledge.
You're right. Yeah, you're right there. Well, anyway, I think we're running out of steam here, ain't we, guys? If anybody's got, I don't have any more topics on my list here.
Well, I just wolfed down a Slim Jim candy bar, so I've got lots of energy.
What, you ain't had loins on deer yet?
You know?
No, they said 3 days to a week.
That's another reason why I opted to not go deer hunting at this point. I got to find another freaking meat processor because mine burnt down.
Well, see, if I was hunting down in Indiana, I'd just have Rick butcher it for me.
Well, I'm 5 hours from Rick, though.
Well, then what's your excuse? Rick, sharpen up your knives, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Would you do it for half?
Do what?
I said, would you do it for half?
Oh, what, half the deer?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I can do it. I mean, I got nothing to do it here where I live, but I could do it. You know? I don't even have a kitchen table.
God damn, I got an extra one of those I can drag along if I have to, I suppose.
Yeah.
Get you a folding table from Walmart.
As I was telling my cousin, I haven't cut a deer up in a long, long time. But I know how to do it because I've done it before.
Like riding a bicycle, it'll come right back to you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't believe they've changed the anatomy of one.
No. Actually, cutting deer up is a lot like cutting a lamb, to be honest with you. So you almost cut it the same way. So anyway, there we go.
I have an important question though.
Yes.
Have you seen the blonde walk by yet?
Not today.
Okay.
Didn't come by today, or I missed her talking to you guys. Yeah.
Don't blame us.
You know.
You got a friggin' hotspot. You could sit outside.
You know. No, I haven't seen her walk by today, so I must have missed her. You know. I wasn't looking out there at the right time. There we go. Unless she's running late.
There's snow out there.
Now you got me looking out the window as I'm talking here.
Look what you've done.
Yes. See what you've done? You know. Anyway, we're running out of time here, so let's go down the panel here, see if everybody's got anything they want to plug. Let's go with Wheelchair.
Just keep fighting for that Second Amendment right. Contact your congressmen, your senators, both state and federal. And, you can do it via Twitter, via email, via Facebook, as well as writing letters and calling their offices.
Okay. Tony.
Hell, I got nothing. I'll just say good day, everybody.
All right. Squib.
Thanks for the invite. Thanks for keeping me company while I'm at work on Saturday.
All right. Oh, wait. Dead Horse says a corporation is a business entity that legally exists separately from its owner. So,
true, but I'm still saying, in general, okay, you don't go, well, this is the company. You go, this is my company. This is my business. So even if the business owns that company car, if the business owns that building, if it's an LLC so you don't get sued, you're still the one writing the checks, signing off on stuff, making sure stuff happens. And that gun that's in your vault belongs to your business, but it's your business, so, in a manner of speaking, it's yours.
If your company goes belly up, you got to get rid of that gun. You can't take it home with you.
Right. But you would forfeit more than just that as far as assets.
But in the middle of the night, you could show up and dance around in your boxers with it around and sing songs.
Yeah. Yes.
Nobody could tell
you can take your lame friends out on the weekend to shoot it and just say that you were entertaining clients. Yeah.
Anyway, Patriot, any plugs?
I am not going to be dancing in my boxers this weekend. just looking for a couple more videos for that thing so we can get rid of these bags that are sitting around here. The blind challenge. I already have another challenge lined up. Not really a challenge, but it's something to throw out there that G brought up in a chat. But I do appreciate you having this and inviting me and letting me talk and ramble on.
Oh, it's great to have you all. It really is. And I want to thank you for Gabe, Rich, Grandman, Vanessa, Midnight, Ghost, General Relativity, Pete, and a bunch of others, Kyle, Grim, Rob, Black Cat, who else? John Brown. That was on YouTube. Then we got Dead Horse and Ohio 45 on the on the gun channel side, and Pete. Oh, another Pete as well. So there we go. I want to say thank you to you all for being here, and I will be back on Wednesday at 7 p.m. for Rick's Life as I see it. See you all then.